and welcome to Property Mastermind Podcast, episode 109, with Hilary Saxton and Bob Anderson. I say it different ways each time, Bob Anderson and Hilary Saxton. Today, how too many life rules, or how life rules will stop you being a successful property developer. This is more around the type of person you need to be successful in property development, but in life. You're going to find this very interesting. If you're stuck somewhere, this is the one that you might want to tune into. Let's jump into episode 109. Okay, 109. Woohoo, Bob.
Woo.
We're marching through them, aren't we?
Punching them out.
Love a good podcast. Look at us go. You listen to the beginning ones. Every now and then I do listen to one of our podcasts and I think, oh, they're not bad. I quite like it. And it's hard to listen to yourself.
One a week.
Yeah.
I follow different podcasts myself and they're maybe one a month.
Oh, we're consistent.
Yeah.
We're consistent. Sometimes the last minute was like, oh my gosh. Anyway, what's the tip for the day, Bob? This is our new thing. We're introducing Bob's tip for the day.
Oh, well, we're doing two podcasts, one after the other. I'm caught short on a tip.
You're caught short on a tip.
So what about the next tip?
Do you want a hand?
You got a tip?
What
do you got?
I have a cheeky tip.
Oh,
when somebody says, they ask about a tip, I always say, never wash your face with soap and be good to your mother. Never wash your face with soap. Dries your skin out.
All right, a good tip.
That is a great tip.
Yep.
So never wash your face with soap. Be good to your mother. Everyone knows you should always be good to your mother.
And use a quality moisturiser. Okay. Well, when you're talking about that, what about? I'm thinking every time I go outside, go fishing, go in the sun, or anything, you grab me. Hey, you got your sunblock on. Hey, you like my mum in that respect.
Well, if you can look at us, if you're looking at us on YouTube, because these are on YouTube as well. So if you want to see what we look like, we're there. Hello, welcome to us. But Bob has Danish ancestry, so he has a pink-white colour about his skin, and I have way back Spanish, Portuguese ancestry. So I just walk out in the sun and I go really brown. So I'm constantly saying to Bob when he's going outside, anyway, have you got sunblock on? And so often he forgets, and it drives me insane.
Yeah.
How can you not wear sunblock? I just can't help but slather it on my face.
It's the Viking ancestry. We're made for the Northern Hemisphere.
And
That's for sure.
You came out pink. Pink, white.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Anyway, Bob, we're talking about how life rules really hinder your progress in life.
Life rules. I mean, you probably do need some, but too many.
Oh, actually, we need to give away the book. Property Millionaires Exposed. Today going to Melanie White. Melanie, great chat with you on the phone the other day. I wish you so much success in property development and life. And maybe some life rules today might be helpful. I don't know. Anyway, that will be in the post to you.
Yep.
So you're right, Bob. Life rules do stop us moving forward.
Yeah.
And we need some.
So, sort of life rules, are we thinking just people
You want a hand?
overanalyzing stuff, or what are we talking about?
So what I talk about with life rules are maybe sometimes people use absolute words a lot. So I always do this. I can't do this. I don't do this. It really closes off we look mindset to a non-growth mindset, meaning something is or isn't possible. And very often think we live in a grey area. And if you're a person who lives black and white, I know a few of these people, that black and white just doesn't work in this world. We have to have some flexibility. We've got a lovely lady that works for us, and she's learning some new ropes. And I said to her, this is the system, how we do it. But sometimes we do it like that, and sometimes that, because everybody's situation is different and things are happening differently, and you never know. So we live in grey areas. So I don't want to say to her, we always do that, because we are flexible, because that is life.
Yeah.
And a great example of a life rule, I have a friend, she's single, and she says to me, there are no men available. I'm like, that's the most ridiculous life rule to live by. There are billions of men available. Her rule is that. So do you think she sees them or finds them? No.
No, because there's no eligible men out there, so she's
In her
not
head,
going to find one.
It's a life rule she lives by.
Does she even try? Or do you just give up before you try because there aren't any eligible men out there?
And let's relate that to property development. If you are looking for a site in a particular patch, there aren't,
Nothing stacks up yet.
Yeah.
Yet there's,
but there are
15 people doing a development. why is that? Anyway, there might be a reason, but
But that's exactly it. If you've given yourself a rule, if you're using absolute words, check in that is true.
You often heard me say, I didn't invent it. Never say never.
Yes.
Because every time I've ever said never, I've been proved wrong.
Yeah. Never say never. Didn't you invent that? Oh, well, there you go.
No, I don't think so. I've used it.
You didn't invent it. It's been around for 1 billion years,
Yeah.
and you haven't. But when we do that, when we do that, and you did bring up a type of analysis paralysis, because sometimes if we're living by life rules, everything has to be ticked off, and unless something's perfect, you won't go ahead.
This is not a perfect world we live in.
It is a very non-perfect world we live in. And it's changing so fast if you've given yourself a set of rules to live by.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that raises all sorts of other things, but analysis, what is it, paralysis by analysis? Well, we see that.
Yes.
I've seen people on the surface looking really keen to do a property development, and then they find a deal, and they do the numbers, and it seems to work, and they just can't do that next thing, which is probably making an offer, going to contract. All of a sudden, and I think fear is a big thing. Other emotions come into it.
Is that fear because they're not ticking off the perfection boxes? It has to be that. This is a life rule for me. It has to have all of that. And if it's not working for them like that, do you know?
It's almost an excuse. It's not perfect. It's only 98% perfect, so I can't do it.
Well, I do personality profiling, and so I do it through the DISC profile system, and I'm a practitioner, blah, blah, but within the mentoring program, people are allowed to have it. I'll do an analysis with them. We give it to them complimentary. But what people learn about themselves is interesting, because you can find out that you are a person who does love to live within the rules. Things have to be right for you to move forward. And that's okay. But what is important is that you know that you're like that. Oh, yeah. And often when you're working with somebody like that, I've worked with some scientists and people that are into technology. Often, that's the way their brain works. They're fabulous at that. But they'll need that extra push because they can't do that moving forward because they're stuck with that analysis paralysis.
I know who you're thinking about, and I'm thinking about scientists.
Yep.
And I made the comment once, it's not like a chemical formula. Yes. It's not, H2SO4 plus da-da-da-da-da equals that. And it's an infallible law, of chemistry, whatever the formula happens to be. Water's got 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom. Otherwise, it's not water. And they're used to dealing in those definites. Yeah. I said, property development, you got to just be a bit more flexible. You certainly do the right due diligence, right analysis, which they did. But I remember making that comment. Yeah. It's not like a chemical formula that is always true.
Another thing when people have life rules is they lack the ability to be more adaptable. So say you are wanting to do property development, you're time poor, like many people, or time is just taken up. I had a great chat with somebody yesterday, and they said, I'm in the era of my life where I'm doing so much, and they're in that sort of 30 to 40 era. And I thought, you think it stops there? But anyway, I let them have it. But as in, I let them have that thought, and that's theirs to have. Yeah. But sometimes when we say, I get out of bed at 6, that's what I do. That is a life rule that you're living by. If you're time poor and you need to spend some more time with property development, maybe it's time that you change that. Yep. Or I always go to the gym on this time, or I do that. Maybe it's time you looked at changing that. And I know as working as a coach, I often use these words. And if you're stuck somewhere in your life and you're living by a life rule, ask yourself this: how's it working out for me? I remember having
that old chestnut.
Had a great conversation with a client way back early days in my coaching, and he was telling me he had some serious life rules and he was having some issues about something. But I looked at him and I said, "And how's that working out for you?" And it made him realise, oh my goodness. But that's a great question to ask yourself. How's that working out for you? Because when I profile somebody, it's great. You learn all about you, your tendencies, what you're great at, and when you're under pressure, what you're not so great at. And what you need to understand is if something's not working out in your life and it's due to the way you are as a person, one being someone who lives by two absolutes, too many absolute words or too many life rules. How's it working out for you?
Oh, that squares it up. You know, even that example you gave before, there's no eligible men in the city, you know,
Yeah.
and it's a 1.5 million person city, right? So, and so, well, how's that working out for you? You
Well,
know,
it's not.
Yeah, and then I suppose you could say, well, in the last week, how many eligible women do you think found an eligible man in a population of 1.5 million?
Yeah.
5, 10, 50, 100?
So put that onto...
Or zero. In other words, population's going to finish because there's no
finished.
eligible women meeting eligible men.
Diminished. Time
Eventually,
over.
no more kids. Oh, well, can't be
But
right.
we can relate that to finding a site or finding a builder or getting finance, or once you have given yourself that absolute, but
Yep.
your lack of, anyway.
Absolutes.
Yes, absolutes, but the lack of adaptability. So
Yeah.
being able to change what you do because you have to, because
Yeah.
you have to have a different result.
Change what you do, change how you think. It's all part of it, I guess, part of the same thing.
And when you do that, it often, when you are rigid and living inside rules that aren't serving you, remember that question, you know, how's that working out for you? You need to understand you are missing out on so many opportunities.
Yeah.
There's nothing in this patch, like Bob pointed out at the beginning.
And you're missing out to other people who aren't bound
Yes,
by that.
yes, you are missing out. You're also missing out. If we take this outside of property development, you know, connections, fun, other opportunities, so many things. If you live by a set of rules that don't really exist, they are just ones you have given yourself. Yeah.
I have to be in bed by 9 p.m.
Oh, curtains have to be closed by 5:30. These are some life rules that I know of. Yeah, just some crazy stuff.
Not around our house.
No. And when you try and conform, Bob, to too many life rules, it can lead to stress and burnout because you become so stressed because you're not getting the results you want in life.
Because life and society and the environment you live in isn't rigid like you.
And you're not getting results.
And you're not getting results.
So it becomes quite
frustration,
stressful.
Stress, yeah.
Have you ever found, Bob, have you had a life rule around property development that you had to change? Maybe in the early days before, or maybe of more recent times?
Probably when I was started, I was fearless. I honestly thought, why? Like I thought I'd found the golden goose or nirvana, because I found my first project. I was helped by the landowner. It was a vendor finance deal. I did very well out of it. I didn't even spend 5 cents of my own money. I did a second deal with my sister's boyfriend who put the money in. Now I've done 2 deals, done well. I haven't put 5 cents in any deal yet. And I thought, I'll be retired by the time I'm like 28 or 30, the way I'm going. And reality check, of course, when the market changed. So, I mean, that was a...
So you just signed a rule that you were just awesome at this.
I was awesome. I was the best developer ever. I was just so much smarter than everybody else. I'm looking around at... It was a bit of arrogance, but, you need to get an uppercut sometimes when you're young. I mean, it didn't kill me. But I thought, I must be smarter and better than everybody out there because I'm doing so much better. And I'm, look at me, I'm only in my 20s and I'm smashing it. I'll be...
Yeah,
you
are
I'll
the
be
man.
living in the Caribbean by the time I'm 30, retired, And so I guess that was a big adaptation when I realised that I wasn't as clever as I thought, and I was a bit stupid, and I was a bit naive, and I didn't know enough.
So you'd assigned yourself a rule that you were awesome.
But I didn't let it stop me.
No.
It was, okay, here's a correction. Okay, well, I'm not infallible. All right, well, that's okay, but I'm not giving up on this because I know it'll work.
Because ask yourself that question, how was it working out for you? Well, obviously you had an incident that made you think, holy heckers.
I suppose I had some success before things toughened up, and I had had a couple of tough times, a couple of tough years in the market turned. I got through it, worked hard, diligently, learned, got through there okay. But that was a lesson I had to have. But whereas some people, like if your first project's really hard and tough and you make mistakes and that, you probably might not do a second one. That's why people join our mentoring program, even for their first project, because they want to make it a good one. Don't want to get the wrong deal.
Other things when you have life rules too, you can become inefficient because you have to do that before you can do that. Everything has to be done in a particular way, and it just causes a bit of inefficiency. So we're not getting through stuff like we could or would or should.
Yeah, and your whole time management goes out the door. I like an example I've heard you give, and it's, let's say you plan a holiday, let's say it's 100 kilometres away, might be, go to the beach for a holiday. What do? Well, you hop in your car, you do everything, you do your preparation, you put everything in the car that you're going to need, and you leave your front yard, right? You're in the street. You know where you're going. I'm going to the beach. It's 100 kilometres away. But on the way, there could be some roadworks, and maybe you have to do a detour. And there's stoplights and there's green lights. But, you don't go out there and do your research and say, okay, I'm going to research, make sure there's no roadworks on during this, hour and a half trip or whatever it is. How can I get the maximum, green lights? Oh, what if, you don't do that. So where am I going with this?
I don't know, Bob. I'm actually looking at you thinking, crikey, we might have to do a podcast edit here. I'm unsure where you're going.
Well, where I'm going is you can't wait till everything's perfect.
Oh, so we're back. Yeah, and that causes inefficiency because you're waiting for the times to be perfect.
Well, you're waiting for all the planets to line up in perfection. Right. And, and that...
Quick save there on the podcast.
Slows you down.
Yeah.
All that goes with that.
Another part, a life rule thing, limits creativity. When you're living by a set of rules that, everything has to be perfect and has to be done in a certain way, and there's always this, or you're living by absolute words, it will hinder creativity. And if we relate that to a site, how often have we got recent mentoring students doing three, subdividing to 3 and 3 builds. They didn't want to do that. They actually, initially they started off wanting to do a duplex site, I think, but this is a crack deal, but they had to change the way they thought about something. They weren't stuck in the mud that this is what we'll do.
They were adaptable and prepared to adapt.
Yeah, yes, because if you are, it is very much a closed mindset type of thing. If you give yourself life rules, you will be closed for other opportunities coming your way because it's not how you do things.
Yeah, you've got to sort of step outside of it and look at it from the outside. Because when you're involved in something, like you're in their boots and all, it's an emotional thing, isn't it? And so that sort of ability to detach and analyse it from the outside, sort of unemotionally, that can be a good thing. And
I'm also just, other examples pop into my head where people have thought they could get 5 and they got 6, or they thought they could get 7 and they got 8, that was highest and best use, so it did work out that way, and developments have turned out incredibly more profitable, and that is because you've looked at their deal and said, just because their life rule is I trust the person, I trust the architect who gave me the plan, or the massing plan. So you challenge that, because
sometimes you have to challenge stuff too.
Yeah. But in their defence, they would not have known that was possible. But they also might be the type of people that have life rules, which are people who make those plans are the professional and they know best. And that's not, that could have been without your set of eyes casting over it, and then they knew that you know best. It could have been a way less profitable, still profitable, but you increase profits by a huge amount.
Yeah, I've had that conversation with architects. I got an architect once to do 2 designs for me. So I was looking at it was a joint venture with a landowner. So it was a fellow who owned 2 adjoining blocks of land. He had 2 old houses on it. They were costing him a lot of money in repairs, not great tenants, and you could do 5, potentially even a 7-storey building on it. So I worked on that one with him, and I went to an architect I knew, whom I hadn't used before, but came well recommended. And I said, look, I'll give you a crack at this. I said, what's the most we could do with it? And he said, look, we might be able to get to 7 levels rather than 5 because it's more than 1,200 square metres. And I realise that. And I said, look, give me a scenario, absolutely max out the site for me. And I said, that will require basement car parks, won't it? He said, yeah. And I said, okay, do that. Just give me a scheme on that. How many units, how many levels? And I said, give me another scheme. No more than 5 levels, on-grade parking, no basement, parking on ground. Just give me those 2 schemes. And he said, okay. So he gave me those 2 schemes. I ran the numbers. The smaller one was more profitable. And that's not unusual. Every level you go up on an apartment block, the square metre rate goes up. Basement car parks, particularly built to boundary, are extremely expensive, but you have to have a certain number of car parks. So when you go for more units and higher, you got more car parks. This one ended up having to go to a second level of car park to max out the number of units.
Wow.
And so two-level basement car parks are built to boundary, pier and beam, are just like super expensive. And so I did 2 feasibilities and I showed him. I said, come around and I'll show you. I said, I'm going to do the smaller one. He said, what? You're joking. He said, why wouldn't you do the big one? It's where the money is. I said, no, it's where the money isn't. And I showed him. And the bigger one showed something like a 13% margin, and the other one was 20%, the smaller one.
Wow.
I said, I couldn't even get the other one financed. So why would I do that?
Oh, yeah, that's one story I don't know, Bob. I've heard a lot of your stories. There's another newbie for me.
Yep.
What a great story. There's a great story. What about another one, another issue that can arise if you are having too many absolutes in your world? It would be just poor collaborating and networking, because your life rule is that I only work with this type of person, or I only work with this age of person, or I only work with this. I mean, I'm going to just put it out there a little bit. I do see where in some areas, and I suppose we talked about it in the last podcast about using people that, especially real estate agents, that maybe have a bit of experience, and you've got to get experience somewhere. But I do see that often millennials would only choose to work with millennials they don't think other people are as smart as them. That's something, and is that a life rule? It's not a rule I live by. I think sometimes that's something I notice.
Every millennial does that.
No, stop it.
Absolutely every millennial.
Or maybe we could go the other way. Someone like myself, I prefer, if I have a hairdresser, she's got to be at least the same age as me. I don't trust anyone touching my hair who hasn't experienced frizzy African style hair like I have. I just suppose that I give myself, they are potentially life rules. That's a rule I happen to live by. Nobody touches my skin who's at least in their 40s. They have to understand what older skin is like.
I have a degree in dermatology and
pretty
50
much.
other degrees.
Yeah.
So,
so collaborating at network, if you give yourself life rules, I could be missing opportunities because of that. But if we put that out to you as a budding developer, are you missing opportunities because you choose to only work with that sort of person, or perhaps that religion, or that race, or that age, or that, I don't trust these people because they are like that, where you've summarised a whole type of person that is so untrue.
I've seen people like that. They only choose to work with somebody. It could be of the same religion, it could be anything really, but then why wouldn't you just choose the best? And if they happen to be the same as whatever the group or whatever you're thinking about, then coincidentally that'd be good. But why not go for the best?
Yes.
And I've seen people who flatly refuse to do a joint venture. So no way in the world am I going to do a joint venture. But then, well, that's fine. If you've got a big chunk of money sitting around, you don't have to. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. The attitude could be, well, it's easier if I just do my own without another person, and that's a true thing. But I've seen people take that attitude, but with very limited money, and think, well, geez, it's going to be pretty tough finding a deal with only that amount of money and not getting any help. And they're sort of, because of that belief, I don't, and maybe they had a bad experience once with a joint venture partner, not in property development, could be a business partner, didn't pull their weight, could be, something that their parents experienced, who knows, and they got this absolute belief, yet there could be deals out there with good people that could happily work with them, and they could do really well. And I've seen that on the odd occasion. And eventually they've come around.
That reminds me of somebody who's been through the mentoring program, Connie. She always says, united you stand, or maybe I gave it that tag, but I was united you stand. If you want to do property developments, she's always looking, she always looks to collaborate with people. A great collaborator. Yeah, so, collaboration. Good attitude to have. And it's not a life rule. I mean, if it's a type of rule, but it's not closing yourself off to, I only do that. Because that also can put your reputation at risk. They only do that. They only work with that. Do you want that sort of reputation? No, I don't believe you do.
Not helpful.
Not helpful in any way. And what about, just let's take this a little bit to sort of intuition, Bob. If you're living by
interesting subject.
life rules, are you neglecting your intuition? Are you not listening to what your gut says?
Mm-hmm. The old theory or whatever it was women have better intuition than men. That's an absolute. I just said an absolute then, didn't I? Women are more intuitive.
But do you believe that to be true?
Not necessarily. Like my experience is that that's not the case. But then, do you have to analyse 100 men and 100 women, or 1,000 men and 1,000? My experience is no. I haven't seen that it's the exclusive domain of women. Intuitiveness.
Because if you stick to a set of absolute rules and that's what you decide that you live by, then when you are intuitive, you're missing out.
Yeah. What can you do anything to improve your intuitiveness?
Yes, you can. So when I studied under David Rock, so he's a neuroscientist, they really explained well intuition. It's what it is. It's your body's ability to notice stuff. And I'll give you a great example. Let's say you get home one night and it's dark and you go to walk up the driveway, walk into the house or whatever, and you notice that the gate latch isn't where you usually put it, but it's only slightly off. You don't consciously notice it, but your brain saw it. Then you get to the front door and there's just something out of place. You don't go, that shouldn't be there. There's just something. So your brain notices really small things that aren't right. And so that could be with a conversation, it could be a facial expression.
These things are accumulating in your subconscious or something.
And they start telling you in your stomach. They start telling you intuitively, or we call it in our stomach. Some people it's a gut feel.
Tighten up a bit.
Yeah, well, some people it's more in their head. It's like, that doesn't feel right. That doesn't feel right. I get goosebumps. Something doesn't feel right.
Reactions to it. Something's not normal.
By not consciously. So to improve. And then maybe you walk inside and maybe you've been robbed or there is an intruder or there's somebody surprising you, it's a birthday party and people are in your house, but you just knew there was something not right. And let's go with the birthday party option. Perhaps it was your birthday, but no, everyone had played it down, but maybe your partner or your wife or husband, you'd seen them on the phone a couple of times and when it was my birthday, Bob was on the phone a couple of times over there and I said, what was that about? And I thought, that's not right, what are you doing? And we're supposed to be watching rugby and I thought, oh God, what are you up to? But I think that, I know that to improve your intuition, it's becoming a little bit more mindful. And mindful is one of those words that we all sort of go, we walk away from. What mindful means is being in the moment. Be where you are. If you are being mindful as a mum and you're playing with your children, play with your children, get off your phone. Yeah. If you are being mindful as a dad and you're playing with your children, play with your children, get off your phone, or stop watching the television, or doing that other thing that you do at the same time.
Watching the footy out of the corner of your eye when you're trying to do a jigsaw with your kids or something.
If you are doing a feasibility, do the feasibility. If you are walking through an open home, be there. You can
have a wine in your hand when you're doing a feeso.
You can have wine in your hand for everything. Whatever, don't limit it. But it just means that be in that moment, and the more often that you check in and become more mindful, the more that you'll notice the gate latch not being shut properly, and so your body just becomes more attuned. So if you wanted to take it to a next step, Bob, you could go to meditation, and meditation is hard for a lot of people, myself included, but there are shorter meditations you can use. Even it's been proven 10 minutes 3 times a week is useful, very useful. There are massive peer-reviewed science studies that just tell you and show you that that's a great thing to do. But I personally use, and if you want to check it out, Yoga Nidra. There is a 20-minute one on YouTube. I do it most days, and it's fantastic. It almost puts you to sleep, but at the end she says, well, I feel like I've gone to sleep. At the end she goes, and now open your eyes. And my eyes open, so I must be listening at a level. So that all of that stuff helps improve your intuition. But if you are of the mindset that, that's a life rule, that stuff's mumbo jumbo, or I live like this, so you can't listen to what your gut's telling you because it's not following your life rules, well then you're missing out on something. You're missing out on personal growth, and you're missing out on potential property developments.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that's a big story.
Yeah.
Oh, podcast, that one.
Oh, it's a little. I know. Well, you hear,
For you, not for
yeah,
me.
that is my favourite field. So you opened my can of worms, and I've got them a wee soapbox.
Yeah, I asked the question, can you improve your intuition? And
That's how you can.
it's a 5 minutes. You could do 5 hours, but
Okay, well, Bob, I think we're there. I think
that's an
living by
interesting-
too many life rules can hinder your progress in everything,
Definitely,
and
yeah.
success in life, and your ability to meet new people and make new friends and progress forward, and just everything. So if you have got something out of it, let us know. And remember, book winner Melanie White, check out the new website. I'm pretty sure it is live by the time this one comes out. It's very exciting. And grab a copy of 3 Wines In from hilarysaxton.com. I would
Yes.
love for you to read that book. It does talk
3
about
wines in.
absolutes in there, because it's all about progressing forward. 3 Wines.
Great read.
I should get a copy of it and show it in the podcast. Might do that next week. All right, people. Remember, our membership is launching right now, so if you're interested in joining that for $1 a month, 4 fabulous courses.
$1 a month for the first month.
$1 for the first month, and $149 after that. 4 fabulous courses, getting started in property development, small subdivisions, renovations 101, and performance and mindset. So if you're struggling
what a
on
package
performance,
that is.
that will be the go. It's a fabulous course. Anyway, that's enough plugging from me. Anything else, Bob, on closing?
You've said it all.
Oh, as per usual. Have a fab week, everybody. Catch you soon.
Bye.
Bye.